The Great Hall of the Galactic Scientific Consortium buzzed with tension. Representatives from dozens of alien species had gathered on the space station orbiting Kepler 180 to discuss the future of interstellar civilization. Dr. Hannah Kim stood at the center of the circular chamber, her dark eyes scanning the faces of beings who looked nothing like her. The Vorthak delegates sparkled like living crystals, their bodies reflecting the harsh white lights of the station. Their leader, High Crystal Vextar, spoke in musical tones that made the air vibrate. The humans continue to pollute scientific discourse with their primitive emotional responses, he said. How can a species that cries, that feels anger, that claims to love be trusted with advanced technology? Hannah felt her hands tighten into fists, but she kept her voice steady. Emotions don't make us weak. They make us human. A ripple of what might have been laughter came from the Nexari section. The insect-like beings shared a collective mind, and their spokesman clicked his mandibles together. Individual feelings are chaos, he buzzed. The hive thinks as one. We have evolved beyond such messiness. The Kelthran ambassador, a tall, gray being with large black eyes, nodded his elongated head. Logic is the only path to true advancement. Emotions cloud judgment. They lead to mistakes, to wars, to death. Dr. Tae Wan, Hannah's research partner and closest friend, stepped forward. His gentle face showed the strain of months of these debates. You're wrong, he said quietly. Our emotions drive us to discover, to protect, to grow. Without love, what's the point of existence? High Crystal Vextar's body flashed with angry red light. Love? You speak of this chemical reaction as if it were sacred. Your attachment to each other makes you vulnerable, predictable, weak. Love saved my homeworld, Hannah said, her voice growing stronger. When the plasma storms threatened Earth's colonies, it wasn't cold logic that drove our scientists to work for 72 hours straight to find a solution. It was love for their families, their friends, their species. Love gave them the strength to keep trying when logic said it was impossible. The Kelthran ambassador's expression never changed. One example does not prove a universal truth. For every success driven by emotion, we can show you 10 failures caused by the same weakness. One moved closer to Hannah. She could feel the warmth of his presence, the way he always supported her in these hostile debates. For 3 years they had worked together on Europa Station, studying stellar formation while the galaxy debated whether humans deserved a seat among the advanced civilizations. Show us these failures, Taiwan challenged. Give us proof that emotion leads to destruction. The chamber fell silent. Then slowly the Kelthran ambassador reached into his robes and pulled out a small device. It hummed with energy, its blue glow casting shadows across his pale features. This is proof, he said. This is what happens when emotional beings are allowed to spread their infection. The device fired. Hannah watched in horror as the energy beam struck Taewan in the chest. He looked down at the spreading burn, then up at her face. His eyes held no fear, only sadness. Hannah, he whispered, reaching out to touch her cheek. Don't let them make you cold. He collapsed to the metal floor. Hannah dropped to her knees beside him, pressing her hands against the wound, but she could feel his life slipping away. Around them, the alien delegates watched with what might have been curiosity or satisfaction. Taewan, stay with me, she pleaded, her voice breaking. Please. He smiled, even as blood ran from the corner of his mouth. Remember our research, he whispered. The stellar equations. Love can move stars, Hannah. Prove it. His hand went limp in hers. Hannah looked up at the Kelthran ambassador, her face wet with tears she didn't bother to hide. You murdered him. I removed a threat to galactic stability, the ambassador replied calmly. His emotional contamination was spreading to other species. Better to eliminate the source than risk infection. High Crystal Vextar's light pulsed with approval. The Kelthran acted with wisdom. Perhaps now you humans will understand your place in the cosmic order. Hana stood slowly, Taewan's blood on her hands. The aliens expected her to break down, to scream, to prove their point about human emotional weakness. Instead, she felt something else growing inside her chest. Not rage, though, that was there too. Something deeper, stronger. "You want to see what human emotion can do?" she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "You think love makes us weak?" She looked down at Taewan's still form, then back at the assembled beings who had watched him die without lifting a finger to help. "I'm going to prove you wrong," she continued. "I'm going to show you that love isn't a weakness or an infection or a primitive response. I'm going to prove that love is the most powerful force in the universe." The Nexari spokesman buzzed with amusement. "And how will you do that, emotional human?" Hana wiped the blood from her hands on her clothes. "I'm going to burn a star." The laughter that followed echoed through the chamber, a sound like breaking glass from the Vorthak, clicking mandibles from the Nexari, and cold silence from the Kelthrans. They thought she was crazy with grief. "You cannot alter stellar processes with feelings," High Crystal Vextar sang mockingly. "Stars are governed by nuclear physics, by gravity, by forces beyond your comprehension." "Love is beyond your comprehension," Hana replied. "But I understand it, and I'm going to use it to do something none of your advanced civilizations have ever managed. I'm going to save a dying star, and I'm going to do it with the power you've dismissed as primitive emotion." The Kelthran ambassador studied her with his large, dark eyes. "Impossible. Even if such a thing were theoretically feasible, which it is not, the energy requirements would be astronomical." "The human heart generates more energy than you realize," Hana said. She knelt one last time beside Taewan, touching his face gently. "I promise you," she whispered, "I'll show them what love can do." When she stood again, her expression had changed. The aliens had expected her to be broken by grief, but instead she looked determined, focused, dangerous in a way they didn't understand. "The consortium will not support this foolishness," High Crystal Vextar declared. "I don't need your support," Hana replied. "I don't need your permission. I don't need anything from any of you except for you to watch. Watch while a grieving human woman does something your great civilizations never could." She walked toward the chamber's exit, her footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. At the doorway, she turned back one last time. "When I burn that star," she said, "remember this moment. Remember the man you murdered because you feared what he represented. Remember that you called love a weakness right up until the moment it lit up the cosmos." The doors closed behind her, leaving the alien delegates in uncomfortable silence. They had come to mock human emotion, to prove their superiority over a species they saw as primitive and chaotic. Instead, they had awakened something they didn't understand. Something that would soon make them question everything they thought they knew about the universe and the power of a human heart pushed beyond its limits. In the cold corridors of the space station, Hana Kim began planning the impossible. She would mourn Taewan properly later. First, she had a star to save and a galaxy to shock. 6 months had passed since Taewan's murder, and Hana Kim had become a ghost. She haunted the research labs of Europa Station, working 18-hour days on equations that made other scientists shake their heads in worry. Her hair had grown longer, often unwashed. Her clothes hung loose on a frame that had grown thin from forgotten meals. But her eyes burned with a focus that unnerved anyone brave enough to approach her. Dr. Min Ho found her one morning hunched over a holographic display showing impossible mathematical models. Coffee cups and empty meal containers surrounded her workspace like offerings at a shrine. "Hana," he said gently, "when did you last sleep?" She didn't look up from the swirling numbers. Sleep is for people who aren't trying to rewrite stellar physics. Minho had been Taewan's friend too. He understood the grief, but this obsession worried him. "What exactly are you working on?" "Emotional resonance." "Stellar manipulation," Hana replied, finally turning to face him. Her eyes held a wild light that made him step back. "RSM, the theory that human emotional states can influence stellar nuclear processes through quantum field resonance." "That sounds..." Minho searched for diplomatic words. Impossible. Everything sounds impossible until someone proves it's not. Hana gestured to the hologram, where streams of data twisted through three-dimensional space. Look at these readings. I've been monitoring human neural activity during peak emotional states. The quantum signatures are unlike anything we've seen before. The display showed brain scans taken during moments of intense feeling. A mother holding her newborn child. A man learning of his father's death. Lovers reunited after years apart. Each scan pulsed with unique energy patterns that seemed to reach beyond the boundaries of the human skull. The quantum field fluctuations are measurable, Hana continued, her voice gaining excitement. They're small, but they're there, and if we can amplify them, focus them, direct them toward a stellar target. You're talking about using human emotions as a weapon, Minho interrupted. Not a weapon, a tool, a force for creation, not destruction. Hana pulled up another display, this one showing a red giant star in its death throes. Kepler 442. It's going to go supernova within the next 50 years. When it does, it will destroy the Vorthak colony world of Kristhon Prime. Minho stared at the dying star. You want to save the people who mocked Taiwan's death? I want to prove them wrong about what love can do. Hana's voice softened. Taiwan believed that love was a force of nature, as real and powerful as gravity or electromagnetism. He died for that belief. I'm going to prove he was right. Engineer. So Ra entered the lab carrying a tray of food she had brought from the cafeteria. She took one look at Hana's condition and set the tray down firmly. Eat. Now. You can't save stars if you're dying of malnutrition. So Ra had lost her homeworld to stellar collapse 3 years earlier. She understood better than most what it meant to watch a star die. She also understood what it meant to lose someone you loved. Show her the resonance chamber designs, Hana said, obediently picking at the food. So Ra activated another holographic display. The image showed a massive spherical chamber filled with crystalline structures and quantum field generators. At its center was a smaller sphere where a human could sit in meditation. We call it the stellar heart device. So Ra explained to Minho. The theory is that intense human emotion creates quantum fluctuations in local spacetime. These fluctuations, when properly amplified and focused, can theoretically influence stellar magnetic fields. Minho studied the design. As a physicist, he could see the elegant beauty of the concept. As a rational being, he could also see how impossible it seemed. Even if this worked, the energy requirements would be enormous, and you'd need to position the device dangerously close to the star. We've run the calculations, Hana said. It's possible. Dangerous, probably fatal, but possible. The galactic community thinks you've lost your mind, Minho pointed out. I've seen the news reports. The Vorthak are calling your research emotional delusion. The Kelthrans published a paper titled, Why Feelings Cannot Alter Physics. Hana smiled for the first time in months. It wasn't a happy expression. Let them mock. They mocked Taiwan right up until they killed him. Soon they'll see what human determination can accomplish. So Ra pulled up news footage from across the galaxy. The Nexari Queen had given an interview calling Hana's mission, Entertainment for Superior Minds Watching an Inferior Species Fail. Kelthran scientists appeared on talk shows explaining why emotions were incompatible with advanced physics. High Crystal Vexstar had composed a musical piece called The Foolish Woman's Lament that was being performed in Vorthak theaters. They don't believe you can do it, Minho observed. Good, Hana replied. That will make it more satisfying when I prove them wrong. Over the following weeks, the three humans worked to refine their impossible theory. They discovered that different emotions produce different quantum signatures. Love created steady, warming fields. Grief generated sharp, penetrating pulses. Joy produced spiraling patterns that seemed to encourage growth and renewal. It's like emotional fingerprints, so Ra marveled, studying the data. Each feeling has its own quantum signature, and each signature interacts differently with stellar plasma, Hana added. Love seems to stabilize nuclear fusion. Grief can disrupt magnetic field lines, if we combine multiple emotional states in the right proportions. We could theoretically calm a star's death convulsions, Minho finished, beginning to believe despite himself. The breakthrough came during a late-night session when Hana was analyzing her own brain scans taken while she held Taiwan as he died. The quantum patterns showed something extraordinary. Her grief and love had combined to create a field signature unlike anything they'd seen before. "Look at this," she whispered, pointing to the holographic display. The pattern pulsed with gentle but inexorable power, like a heartbeat made of light. "This is what I was feeling when he died." The love didn't disappear because of the grief. They amplified each other, so Ra ran the pattern through their theoretical models. The computer's projections showed stellar magnetic fields calming, fusion processes stabilizing, and the violent expansion of a dying star slowing to a stop. "It's beautiful," Minho breathed. "It's hope," Hana corrected. "And it's going to save a world." News of their research had leaked to the galactic media. Each day brought fresh mockery from alien scientists. The Vorthak called it crystalline madness. The Nexari buzzed about individual delusion. The Kelthrans coldly calculated the probability of success and announced it as effectively zero. But not all the responses were negative. Messages began arriving from humans across the galaxy. Families who had lost loved ones, scientists who had been dismissed by alien colleagues, people who understood what it meant to be seen as primitive or emotional or weak. "We believe in you," read one message from a human colony near the galactic rim. "Show them what we're capable of." "For Taiwan," said another from a research station in the Vega system. "Make his sacrifice mean something." Hana read each message aloud to her team. With every word of support, their impossible theory felt a little more possible. The stellar heart device grew from blueprint to reality, its crystalline chambers attuned to human neural frequencies. "When do we leave?" Minho asked one evening as they watched the sunset through Europa Station's observation deck. Hana looked out at the stars, each one a distant sun with the potential for worlds, for life, for love and loss and hope. Somewhere among them was Kepler 442, dying slowly and taking a Vorthak world with it. "Tomorrow," she decided. "We've proven the theory works on paper. Now we prove it works in reality." So Ra nodded, understanding the magnitude of what they were attempting. "We might not survive this." "Taiwan didn't survive standing up for what he believed in," Hana replied. "But his beliefs will outlive all of us if we succeed. Love isn't just an emotion. It's a force that can reshape the universe itself." The Ayn. Next morning, as their ship prepared to depart for Kepler 442, the galactic news networks were buzzing with excitement. The delusional humans were finally going to attempt their impossible mission. Betting pools opened across multiple species with odds heavily against success. But aboard their modified research vessel, 3 humans prepared to prove that love was more than just chemistry, more than just evolution, more than just weakness. They prepared to show the galaxy that the human heart contained enough power to save a dying star. The modified research vessel Prometheus Tears drifted through the void between star systems, its hull scarred from hasty retrofitting. What had once been a standard deep space laboratory now bristled with quantum field generators and crystalline resonance chambers. In the ship's main bay, the stellar heart device hummed with potential energy, waiting for the moment when human emotion would be transformed into cosmic force. Hana Kim stood before a holographic display showing their destination. Kepler 442, a bloated red giant star in its final death throes. Around the dying sun, the Vorthak colony world of Kristhon Prime orbited in blissful ignorance, its crystal cities sparkling like jewels against the planet's violet atmosphere. "The star has maybe 40 years left," reported Dr. Minho from his station. "But the decay is accelerating. Solar flares are increasing in intensity. The Vorthak evacuation plans won't be ready for another century." "They don't believe they need to evacuate," added Sora, monitoring communications from the colony. "Their scientists are convinced the star will stabilize naturally." Hana nodded grimly. The Vorthak's crystalline physiology made them excellent at analyzing mineral structures and resonance frequencies, but they had blind spots when it came to stellar physics. Their pride would kill them if someone didn't intervene. "Status report on our new crew members?" Hana asked. Min Ho pulled up personnel files. After word of their mission had spread, volunteers had come forward from across human space. Not scientists, seeking glory, but people carrying profound emotional scars. People who understood that sometimes the greatest achievements required the deepest sacrifice. Jae-hoon reports all quantum engineering systems are operational, Minho read. His modifications to the resonance chambers have increased their sensitivity by 30%. Jae-hoon had lost his wife and 2 children in a transport accident 5 years earlier. He'd spent the time since then designing safety systems for spacecraft, driven by guilt that his engineering skills hadn't been able to save his family. Now he channeled that same obsessive perfectionism into preparing the stellar heart device. Jin confirms our navigation is precise. We'll reach optimal position in 6 hours. Jin had been a military pilot during the border conflicts with the Rigel Consortium. A targeting error had led to civilian casualties that haunted her dreams. She'd left the service and spent years flying rescue missions in dangerous sectors, seeking redemption through service to others. Dongwoo's theoretical calculations show we're within acceptable parameters for stellar interaction. Dr. Dongwoo had been the only survivor when his homeworld star went nova unexpectedly. He'd watched from an orbital research station as 8 billion people died in an instant. Since then, he'd dedicated his life to studying stellar collapse, determined to prevent other worlds from sharing his planet's fate. Each crew member carried wounds that had shaped them, tragedies that had driven them to this moment. Hana understood that their pain wasn't a weakness to overcome, but a strength to harness. "How are the alien observers reacting to our approach?" she asked. So Ra activated the communications array. Dozens of ships from various species had followed, them to Kepler 442, drawn by curiosity and the desire to witness what they expected would be humanity's spectacular failure. "The Nixari Queen is broadcasting live commentary," so Ra reported. "She's taking bets on how quickly we'll be vaporized by stellar radiation." On the main screen, the insect-like queen gestured with her 4 arms as she spoke to her hive mind. Audience. The emotional humans approach their doom with typical blind determination. Observe how individual consciousness leads to self-destructive behavior. The Kelthran scientific mission is maintaining careful distance while taking detailed measurements, so Ra continued. They want to record our failure for future study. High Crystal Vextar's ship, a beautiful structure that looked like a living gemstone, pulsed with musical frequencies as it broadcast to Vorthak settlements across the galaxy. The primitive mammals attempt to alter stellar physics with their crude feelings. Soon they will learn the price of defying natural law. Hana felt a familiar anger rise in her chest, then forced it down. Anger wouldn't save Kepler 442. Only love would accomplish that. Love and the precise application of quantum physics that most of the galaxy refused to believe could work. "Final systems check," she announced over the ship's intercom. "We have one chance to get this right." The crew moved through their preparations with practiced efficiency. Jae-hoon calibrated the quantum field generators, his steady hands never betraying the emotion that drove him. Jin adjusted their position relative to the star's magnetic field lines, seeking the perfect angle for maximum effect. Dongwoo ran final calculations on stellar resonance frequencies, cross-referencing against data from dozens of dying stars. "Hana," Minho called softly. "You should see this." He had intercepted a transmission from Kristhon Prime. On the screen, Vorthak. Families went about their daily lives in crystal spires that reached toward their dying sun. Children played in gardens filled with mineral formations that sang in the stellar wind. Artists created sculptures from living light. "They have no idea what's coming," Minho observed. "They will," Hana replied. "One way or another." As the Prometheus, Tears approached its target position, the star's influence grew stronger. Kepler 442 filled the forward viewports, a bloated red giant that flickered with unstable energy. Solar flares reached out like grasping fingers, and the stellar wind buffeted their ship despite the protective shields. "Temperature rising," reported Ra. "Radiation levels approaching maximum safe exposure. How long can we maintain position?" Hana asked. "Maybe an hour before the shields fail completely, if we're lucky." Hana nodded. An hour to accomplish the impossible. An hour to prove that human love was more than just evolutionary chemistry. an hour to save a world that had mocked them and show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. All stations report ready, announced Yu-Jin from the pilot's chair. Stellar heart device is online, confirmed Jae-hoon. Quantum field stable and synchronized. Stellar resonance calculations complete, added Dong-woo. Target frequencies locked in. Hana looked around at her crew, these damaged and determined humans who had volunteered to risk everything for a theory that most of the galaxy considered impossible. They could have lived safe lives nursing their wounds and accepting the universe as it was. Instead, they had chosen to reach for something greater. The meditation chambers are ready, she announced. Remember, this only works if we open ourselves completely to what we're feeling. No holding back, no protecting ourselves from the pain. The crew members moved to their assigned chambers within the stellar heart device. Each chamber was lined with crystalline structures that would amplify and focus their neural quantum signatures. At the center of the array was Hana's chamber, positioned to coordinate and direct their combined emotional output. Begin meditation sequence, she ordered. Around her, the ship filled with a low harmonic hum as the quantum generators came online. Through the viewports, Kepler 442 continued its death spiral, unaware that 5 humans were about to attempt something that violated everything the galaxy thought it knew about physics. All alien observers report ready to record our failure, So-Ra announced from her chamber, a note of bitter amusement in her voice. Let them record, Hana replied. Today they learned that love isn't primitive. Love isn't weakness. Love is the force that holds atoms together and lights the stars. She closed her eyes and let herself remember Tae-won's face, the way he had smiled even as he died, the gentle strength that had made her believe impossible things were possible. Around her, her crewmates opened their hearts to their own profound losses and loves. The stellar heart device began to sing, its crystalline chambers resonating with frequencies that had never been heard in the universe before. The song of human hearts transformed into quantum energy, ready to teach a dying star how to live again. In the distance, alien observers readied their instruments to record what they expected would be humanity's final folly. Instead, they were about to witness the birth of a new kind of physics, one powered not by cold mathematics but by the infinite strength of mortal hearts that refused to accept defeat. The Prometheus tears hung suspended in Kepler 442's corona like a needle in a furnace. The star's outer atmosphere boiled around them, plasma streams reaching temperatures that could melt diamond. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship as radiation levels climbed beyond what should have been survivable. But the crew had already committed to a path that led through the heart of fire itself. In the central chamber of the stellar heart device, Hana Kim felt the universe pressing against her consciousness. The crystalline walls around her hummed with quantum energy, translating her neural patterns into frequencies that could interact with stellar matter. Through the device's sensors, she could feel the dying star's agony, fusion processes stuttering, magnetic fields collapsing, the slow spiral toward catastrophic expansion. Quantum field generators at maximum output, reported Jae-hoon from his meditation chamber. His voice was strained but steady. The man who had failed to save his family was pouring everything he had learned from that failure into keeping the device stable. Around them, the ship's hull groaned under stress as it was, never designed to handle. So-Ra's voice came over the intercom, tight with concentration. Hull integrity at 60% and falling. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now. Hana opened herself to the memory of Taiwan's death, letting the grief flow through, her without resistance. But this time she didn't stop at the pain. She remembered his smile, his laugh, the way he had looked at stars as if they were old friends. She remembered their late-night conversations about the nature of existence, their shared dreams of a universe where love mattered more than logic. The stellar heart device translated her emotions into quantum pulses that reached out toward Kepler 442's core. For a moment, nothing happened. The star continued its violent convulsions, solar flares lashing out at their tiny ship like the death throes of a wounded giant. Then, impossibly, she felt something respond. Deep within the star's nuclear, heart fusion processes that had been failing for centuries began to stabilize. It was subtle at first, barely detectable even with their sophisticated sensors. But the mathematical models that Dongwu had spent months perfecting confirmed what Hana's intuition already knew. It was working. Yujin, can you feel it? Hana called to the pilot, who was reliving her own memories of loss and redemption. I feel something, Yujin replied, her voice wondering. Like the star is listening. In his chamber, Dongwu was experiencing something he had never expected to feel again: hope. The survivor's guilt that had driven him for years was transforming into determination, and that determination was resonating with the star's magnetic field lines in ways that made the stellar plasma dance to new rhythms. Stellar oscillations are decreasing, he reported, hardly daring to believe the readings. The expansion rate is slowing. But their success came at a terrible price. The ship's shields were failing rapidly under the star's assault. Hull breaches appeared faster than the automatic repair systems could seal them. The radiation levels inside the ship climbed past the point where human survival was measured in minutes rather than hours. We're not going to make it out of here, Minho announced from the medical bay, his voice calm despite the circumstances. He had been monitoring their vital signs and running calculations on radiation exposure. Even if we restore the star completely, we don't have enough time to reach safe distance. Hana had known this moment would come. From the beginning, she had understood that proving her theory might require the ultimate sacrifice. Are you having second thoughts? She asked her crew. No, came Jae-hoon's immediate response. If this is how I can finally save someone, then this is how I want to go. I've been running from my mistakes for too long, Yujin added. Time to run towards something worthwhile. My people died watching their star collapse, Dongwu said quietly. If I can prevent that from happening to another world, my life will have meant something. So Ra's voice carried a note of dark humor. Besides, we're too far along to quit now. The whole galaxy is watching. Through their communications array, they could indeed hear the alien observers' growing confusion. The Nexari Queen's confident mockery had given way to puzzled buzzing as her instruments detected impossible changes in the star's behavior. The Kelthran scientists were frantically recalibrating their equipment, unable to accept readings that contradicted everything they thought they knew about stellar physics. High Crystal Vextar's musical tones had shifted from amusement to something approaching alarm. The star's resonance patterns are changing. This is not possible according to established physical law. Maybe your laws are incomplete, Hana whispered, though she knew the Vorthak couldn't hear her. The stellar heart device was operating beyond its design limits now. Crystalline structures that had taken months to grow were beginning to crack under the strain of channeling so much emotional energy. But still it held. Still it sang with the voices of 5 human hearts that refused to accept defeat. Kepler 442 responded like a patient awakening from fever dreams. Its violent stellar winds began to calm. The chaotic magnetic field lines that had twisted through its corona for centuries started to reorganize into stable patterns. Deep in the star's core, helium fusion processes that had been sputtering toward failure found new stability. It's beautiful, breathed So-Ra, watching through the device's sensors as the star's death convulsions slowed to the steady rhythm of renewed life. It's impossible, corrected Minho. But it's happening anyway. The ship was breaking apart around them now. Sections of the hull peeled away into the stellar wind, carrying with them equipment that had taken years to build. But the stellar heart device continued to function, its quantum generators drawing power directly from the emotions of its operators. Hana felt herself weakening as radiation sickness took hold. Her hands shook and blood ran from her nose, but she held on to her memories of Tae-Wan with desperate strength. His belief in the power of love had brought them this far. She would not let go now. Hana. Jae-hoon's voice was growing faint. The quantum resonance is achieving perfect harmony with the stellar magnetic field. I think we're actually saving it. Through the device's sensors, she could feel Kepler 442's gratitude. The star had been dying for so long that it had forgotten what stability felt like. Now touched by human emotion translated into quantum energy, It was remembering how to live. Message incoming from Kristhon Prime, Sora reported weakly. The Vorthak are detecting the changes. They're asking what we've done. Hana smiled, tasting blood. Tell them we've proven that love is stronger than logic. The star's transformation was accelerating now, driven by quantum processes that the galaxy's greatest scientists had dismissed as impossible. Stellar plasma that had been chaotic and violent was reorganizing into stable patterns. The nuclear fusion reactions in the core were finding new equilibrium points that would sustain the star for millions of years beyond its projected death. We did it, Dongwu whispered, his voice filled with wonder. We actually did it. Around them, the Prometheus Tears continued its death spiral, but its crew had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had taken a dying star and given it new life, powered by nothing more than human emotion channeled through quantum physics. As radiation finally claimed their failing bodies, the 5 humans who had dared to believe in impossible things made their final transmission to the galaxy that had mocked them. This is Dr. Hana Kim of the research vessel Prometheus Tears. We have successfully stabilized Kepler 442 using emotional resonance stellar manipulation. The star will now burn steadily for approximately 12 million additional years. Kristhon Prime is safe. She paused, looking around at her dying crew. These remarkable people who had chosen to transform their pain into salvation for a world that had ridiculed them. This is what love can do, she continued, her voice growing stronger despite her failing body. This is why you should never underestimate the human heart. We don't love because we're weak. We love because love is the force that builds worlds and lights stars and holds the universe together. The transmission ended as the ship's final systems failed, but the star they had saved continued to burn, its new stability sending waves of life-giving energy toward a Vorthak world that would never again dismiss human emotion as primitive weakness. The universe held its breath. Across 3 star systems, every sensor array, every observatory, every scientific instrument capable of stellar observation focused on Kepler 442. What they recorded would be debated, analyzed, and studied for centuries to come. For the first time in galactic history, a dying star was not only refusing to die but actively healing itself. The changes were impossible to deny. Where violent solar flares had once erupted from the star's surface like wounds bleeding plasma into space, now gentle coronal streams flowed in perfect mathematical spirals. The chaotic magnetic field that had twisted through the star's atmosphere for millennia had reorganized into stable patterns that pulsed with rhythmic beauty. Deep within Kepler 442's core, helium fusion reactions that had been stuttering toward failure now burned with steady intensity. Temperature readings showed the nuclear furnace had found new equilibrium points, while spectroscopic analysis revealed isotope ratios that suggested the star would burn for 12 million years beyond its projected death date. But the most mysterious change was the energy itself. The stellar output isn't just stable, reported Chief Observer Veltara from the Kelthran science vessel Logic's Edge. It's producing unique radiation signatures we've never encountered before. On her ship's main screen, wavelength analysis showed impossible results. The star was emitting frequencies that seemed to resonate with biological processes. Planets in nearby systems reported accelerated plant growth, unusual aurora displays, and strange improvements in atmospheric stability. The energy signature is almost... Veltara paused, her logical mind struggling with concepts it had been trained to dismiss. It's almost alive. Aboard the Nexari hive ship Collective Wisdom, Queen Zixtha buzzed with agitation as her collective consciousness tried to process what they were witnessing. Her individual minds, normally synchronized in perfect harmony, were experiencing something unprecedented. Disagreement. Some units are reporting emotional resonance with the stellar emissions, she announced to her worried advisors. This should not be possible. Our neural networks are designed to suppress individual responses. But across her ship, Nexari drones were pausing in their work to stare at the transformed star. Some were even humming, their mandibles creating sounds that resembled the musical frequencies now emanating from Kepler 442's magnetosphere. The most dramatic reaction came from the Vorthak observation Crystal Harmonic Truth. High Crystal Vextar, who had spent months composing mockeries of human emotion, now stood silent before his resonance chamber as the star sang with frequencies that made his crystalline body vibrate in sympathy. The harmonic patterns, he whispered, his musical voice filled with something that might have been awe. They're not random. They're beautiful. The stellar music reached deep into Vorthak physiology, touching resonance points that had been dormant for millennia. Across the crystal ship, his people began to glow with soft light, their bodies responding to the star's new song with involuntary displays of color and harmony. On Cristhon Prime itself, the Vorthak colonists emerged from their crystal cities to stare up at their sun. The bloated red giant that had threatened them with death was transforming before their eyes, its angry red glow shifting to a warm golden light that made their crystal structures sing with unprecedented beauty. The human ship, reported navigation, Crystal Learton. We're detecting debris from the Prometheus tiers. The vessel appears to have been destroyed in the stellar corona. High Crystal Vextar's light dimmed with something that might have been shame. The humans who had saved his people's world had died in the process. They had sacrificed everything to prove a point about the power of love, and he had mocked them right until the moment their theory became reality. Signal the consortium, he ordered quietly. Request immediate medical ships to search for survivors. But even as rescue vessels raced toward the star, everyone knew they were too late. The humans had positioned themselves so deep within Kepler 442's corona that survival was impossible. They had known from the beginning that their mission was suicide, yet they had pressed forward anyway. The search teams found only wreckage and the slowly cooling remains of the stellar heart device. The crystalline chambers that had translated human emotion into star-changing energy were cracked and blackened, but still humming with residual frequencies that made the searchers' instruments sing in harmony. One piece of debris contained the ship's log, its final entries a testament to humanity's impossible achievement. Day 847. Stellar resonance achieved. The star is responding to our emotional quantum signatures. We estimate 12 million years of additional stellar life. Day 848. Hull integrity failing. Radiation exposure beyond survivable limits. But Kepler 442 is stabilizing. We did it. We actually did it. Day 849. Final entry. To anyone who finds this record, we proved that love is not weakness. We proved that human emotion is not primitive chaos. We proved that the heart has power to reshape the universe itself. Remember, us not as the fools who died attempting the impossible, but as the ones who succeeded. The star lives. That's all that matters. The log was signed by all 5 crew members, Dr. Hana Kim, Dr. Min Ho, Engineer So Ra, Jae Hoon, Yu Jin, and Dr. Dong Wu. Their names would be remembered long after their bodies had been consumed by stellar fire. But the most profound changes weren't in space. They were in the minds of those who had witnessed the impossible. Across the galaxy, the news spread with the speed of quantum communication. The primitive humans had not only accomplished stellar manipulation through emotional resonance, they had created something unprecedented, a star that seemed to nurture life itself. The Kelthran Logical Assembly convened emergency sessions to revise their fundamental theories about the relationship between consciousness and physics. For the first time in their species' history, they began to consider that emotion might be more than just evolutionary noise. Perhaps, admitted Chief Logician Carvex in a statement that shocked his people, our understanding of consciousness has been incomplete. The Nixari collective experienced something their species had thought impossible. Individual thoughts emerging from their hive mind. Drones across their empire began to experience what humans called feelings, and rather than suppressing these anomalies, Queen Zixta ordered them studied. The humans may have discovered a fundamental force we were blind to, she announced to her collective. Individual consciousness may not be chaos. It may be evolution. But the greatest transformation occurred among the Vorthak. High Crystal Vextar, the being who had mocked human love most loudly, composed a new musical piece in honor of the Prometheus Tears crew. He called it The Song of Mortal Hearts, and its harmonies incorporated the actual stellar frequencies now emanating from the star the humans had saved. The piece was performed simultaneously across every Vorthak world, its resonances touching the crystalline hearts of billions of listeners. For the first time in their species' history, individual Vorthak began to experience what could only be called love. Not just harmonic resonance with their crystals, but genuine emotional connection with other beings. We called their feelings primitive, Vextar sang as his composition reached its crescendo. We called their love weakness, but they burned brighter than any star, and their light will shine long after we are dust. In the depths of space, Kepler 442 continued its impossible transformation. The star that had been dying for centuries now pulsed with steady life, its new stability sending ripples through local space-time that would influence stellar formation for millions of years to come. Ships from dozens of species converged on the system, not to observe humanity's failure but to study their unprecedented success. The star had become a pilgrimage site, a place where beings came to contemplate the possibility that the universe was stranger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. And deep in the stellar core where nuclear fires burned with new purpose, quantum signatures lingered that carried echoes of human emotion. Love and loss, hope and determination, the willingness to sacrifice everything for strangers who had scorned them. The star that had been called impossible now sang with the voices of 5 humans who had proven that love was indeed a force of nature, as real and powerful as gravity, as constant as the speed of light and capable of miracles that cold logic could never achieve. Kepler 442 had become the universe's first monument to the power of the human heart, and its light would burn for millions of years as proof that some things were worth dying for. 1 year after the miracle of Kepler 442, the galaxy was a different place. Dr. Min Ho stood before the dedication ceremony of the Hana Kim Institute for Emotional Sciences on Christhon Prime, the Vorthak homeworld that 5 human hearts had died to save. He was the only survivor of the Prometheus Tears, pulled from an escape pod that had barely functioned long enough to carry him beyond the star's deadly embrace. The radiation had taken its toll. His hair had gone completely white, and he moved with the careful steps of someone whose body had been pushed beyond its limits, but his eyes still held the fire that had driven him to follow Hana Kim into the impossible, and his voice remained strong as he addressed the assembled representatives of dozens of alien species. They called us primitive, Min Ho said, looking out at an audience that included beings who had once mocked human emotion as weakness. They called our feelings chaos, our love a chemical accident, our grief a flaw in our evolution. Behind him, a holographic display showed the transformed Kepler 442, now officially designated as Heart's Fire by human astronomers and the Weeping Star, by those species poetic enough to recognize beauty when they saw it. The star pulsed, with gentle golden light, its steady rhythm like a cosmic heartbeat that could be detected from 3 systems away. But Hana Kim knew better, Min Ho continued. She understood that love isn't weakness. It's the force that holds atoms together in the face of entropy. It's the power that drives evolution beyond mere survival. It's the energy that builds civilizations and lights stars and teaches the universe itself how to grow. In the front row, high crystal Vextar glowed with soft harmonics that translated to something like profound respect. The Vorthak leader who had once composed musical mockeries of human emotion now served as the Institute's primary patron, funding research into what they had come to call consciousness-based physics. The work continues, Vextar had said in his opening address, his crystalline voice carrying new depths of feeling. The humans died proving that emotion and physics are not separate forces, but aspects of the same fundamental truth. We will not let their sacrifice be wasted. Beside him sat Queen Zixta of the Nexari, her compound eyes reflecting the light from Heart's Fire through the transparent dome above them. The hive mind that had once dismissed individual consciousness as chaos now encouraged her drones to develop personal interests, individual relationships, and what could only be called feelings. The collective grows stronger when its parts are free to love, she had announced to her people, words that would have been heresy just 1 year earlier. The humans taught us that unity and individuality are not opposites, but partners in the dance of consciousness. Even the Kelthrons had changed. Chief Logician Carvex sat in the third row, his large black eyes fixed on Minho with something approaching what humans would call admiration. The species that had valued pure logic above all else had begun incorporating emotional variables into their calculations, and their science had made leaps of understanding that cold reason alone had never achieved. We have revised our fundamental theories, Carvex had admitted in a statement that shocked the galactic scientific community. Consciousness appears to be not merely an emergent property of complex matter, but a fundamental force that shapes reality at the quantum level. The humans were not primitive. They were advanced beyond our ability to recognize. Minho gestured toward the holographic display, where data streams showed the continuing effects of the stellar transformation. Plants throughout 3 star systems were showing accelerated growth. Atmospheric compositions on nearby worlds were becoming more stable. Even space itself seemed to be responding to the star's new frequencies, with gravitational anomalies smoothing out into more predictable patterns. The Maya star they saved isn't just burning longer, Minho explained. It's nurturing life in ways we're still discovering. The energy it produces resonates with biological processes, accelerates healing, encourages growth. Heart's fire has become a beacon for evolution itself. The research data was undeniable. Seeds exposed to the star's unique radiation developed into stronger, more resilient plants. Injured animals placed under filtered starlight healed faster than should have been possible. Even the quantum vacuum near the star showed signs of increased organization, as if the fundamental forces of physics were learning to work together more harmoniously. We call it the love frequency, Minho said, using the term that had emerged from months of study. The specific quantum signature produced when conscious beings experience profound love, when channeled properly, seems to encourage order over chaos, growth over decay, harmony over conflict. In the audience, beings from dozens of species leaned forward with fascination. The implications were staggering. If consciousness could influence physical processes at the stellar level, what else might be possible? The Institute has received funding requests from 47 different species, Minho continued. Research proposals range from healing applications to planetary engineering. Everyone wants to understand how emotion and physics intersect. But not all the changes had been positive. Some species struggled with the new paradigm. The rigid hierarchies of the Kelthron Directorate had experienced civil unrest as lower castes began experiencing emotions they had been conditioned to suppress. Nexari hives across the galaxy reported increasing instances of drones developing individual personalities that conflicted with collective goals. Change is never easy, Minho acknowledged. Hana knew that proving her theory would disrupt established beliefs, but she also believed that truth was worth any disruption, any sacrifice. He activated another display, this one showing the memorial garden that surrounded the Institute. 5 crystalline sculptures stood in a circle, each one attuned to resonate with Heartsfire's frequencies. They were simple structures, elegant in their lack of ornamentation, but they sang with the voices of the humans who had died to save a star. Visitors came from across the galaxy to hear the memorial's song. Many reported profound emotional experiences, Vorthak crystals weeping harmonic tears, Nexari drones composing individual poetry for the first time in their lives, even Kelthrons experiencing what they hesitantly called aesthetic appreciation. They died believing that love was a force of nature, Minho said, his voice carrying across the silent assembly. They died proving it, and now that star will burn for 12 million additional years as testament to their courage. He paused, looking up through the dome at Heartsfire itself, visible even in daylight as a golden point of light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his own heartbeat. The galaxy spent centuries dismissing human emotion as primitive weakness, he continued. But Hana Kim and her crew showed us that love isn't just an evolutionary accident. Love is the universe's way of fighting entropy. It's the force that builds complexity from chaos, that creates beauty from randomness, that turns dying stars into nurturing suns. As he spoke, the memorial sculptures began to resonate, their crystalline structures picking up harmonics from heart's fire and transforming them into music that touched every listener differently. To the Vorthak, it sounded like celebration. To the Nexari, it suggested unity and diversity. To the Kelthrans, it spoke of logic and emotion finding perfect balance. This is their legacy, Minho concluded. Not just a saved star, but a transformed galaxy. A universe where consciousness matters, where emotion has power, where love is recognized as the fundamental force it always was. He stepped back from the podium as the ceremony concluded, watching representatives from dozens of species file past the memorial sculptures. Many paused to touch the crystalline structures, as if hoping to absorb some echo of the courage that had made this moment possible. Later, as the crowds dispersed and Kristhan Prime's violet sky darkened to reveal the stars, Minho found himself alone in the memorial garden. Heart's fire burned steadily overhead, its light casting rainbow patterns through the resonating crystals. "You did it, Hana," he whispered to the singing sculptures. "You proved them wrong. You showed them what love can do." The crystals pulsed with gentle harmonics, as if 5 human hearts were answering from across the void. The sound was beautiful, and sad and triumphant all at once, a perfect expression of what it meant to love something enough to die for it. Above them all, the star that 5 humans had sacrificed everything to save continued its impossible burn, a permanent monument to the moment when the galaxy learned that the human heart contained enough power to reshape the cosmos itself. Love had indeed proven stronger than logic, more powerful than pure reason, more enduring than the cold calculations of species that thought emotions were weakness. And that lesson would burn bright in the heavens for 12 million years, a legacy written in stellar fire by hearts brave enough to believe in impossible things. The universe would never be the same. And somewhere in the quantum fluctuations that danced around Heart's fire, the echo of human voices continued to sing, "This is what love can do."